Like the Real Housewives of Max Verstappen up in here.
Checo's checked out.
Joe Monyu is off the track. That steak is cooked.
A lot, I gotta say, a lot is at stake for Steak F1.
Man, even the broadcast couldn't handle that stat.
Man, my heart almost was screaming like, how can anybody be a Lewis Hamilton fan?
No.
Not on my 2024 bingo card.
Yeah, we're gonna have to create a new one now.
Hey guys, and welcome back to Lights Out Latest. I'm Marina, and I'm here with my fellow Formula One fans and friends, Tristan, Jason, and Steven. And today we're going to talk all things Chinese Grand Prix. Before we get into that, this week's headline, there's only one of them. Formula One and the teams are set to have a little meeting where they're going to discuss the potential to change the point system to include the top 12 instead of just the top 10. What do y'all think? Do you think it's a possibility, or do you like it?
I'm kind of impartial to it, honestly. I mean, the way I kind of understand it is, you kind of touched on it there. They're going to extend points, I guess, through P12.
Yeah.
I mean, the way points are right now, it's so tight. Like, I mean, you look at, like, 10 through 6th. Like, it's like 1 point difference. It's like, I mean, so if they do it through 12, I mean, I guess it looks better on the teams that are mid-pack, but
yeah.
I don't know. It's kind of whatever.
I almost think of like racing traditions though, where like I know like every sport, in motorsports in general, like the top 10 is the top 10.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, I even
Yeah.
like NASCAR stretches it by being like, oh, a top 15 finish, a top 20 finish.
Yeah.
But when you're really thinking about a successful day on the track, you're finishing in the top 10.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
that's what I think of.
Yeah.
I actually think it should stay the same. I don't see a
I think
reason
so,
for it
too.
to change. I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, is it like trying to encourage competition between the lower pack teams, maybe, or not encourage competition, but like encourage incentives for them?
Yeah.
Like to,
The
it
thing
gives them
is,
more of
like-
a bubble to finish within
Yeah.
points radius.
Well, yeah, but like, what is it like? Does it even count if you're like finishing 11th or 12th? Like, you're finishing in the points technically.
Yeah.
But like, at the end of the
Yeah.
day, I don't feel like it's gonna change anything because
Yeah.
those teams are gonna get points on the board, but then like, you're still not gonna have as many points as P10 had.
Right.
So
Yeah.
it doesn't. At the end of the day, it doesn't change anything. The way they do it now is just like hierarchy of like how your team finished the race to decide like if you're at 0 points, like
Effectively,
this week, so.
we already do a system like that. I believe
Yeah.
like if there's two teams with 0 points, they take the highest finish or
Exactly.
who finished the highest
exactly.
the most
So it
times.
doesn't
Yeah.
change
So
much.
it's basically the same system, but I think it would be better if we had points down even through the whole field. Like
That's what
IndyCar does a
Crosby
certain amount of
said.
points for just finishing a race.
Yeah.
Because we already have, like I said, we already rank them based on how well they finish, even if I have 0 points.
Yep.
So to make it clear for the fans and the teams, and more fair for the fans and teams, like somebody could finish 12th, like 18 races, and then if they have 0 points, and the next team finished 11th once, that team that finished 11th once will finish ahead of the team that finished 12th, 18 races.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So this is a more fair point system if we extend it even to the complete grid.
Yeah.
So
I mean,
I agree with it. I wouldn't
Yeah.
mind seeing it, and also it incentivizes teams to stay out on track for longer. Not like F1 drivers are gonna not fight between 16th and 15th.
Oh,
I mean,
yeah.
they always
They already
the
do,
drivers.
Yeah.
But sometimes you see teams retire early if it's like 10 laps to go and
Yeah.
they're in 15th out of like 17 running drivers, and there's no way they're gonna get in the points. They might retire the car.
Yeah.
We've seen that in the past, but
Yeah.
now with this extra incentive of like having the points be that much closer, I
Yeah.
think it'll be a good thing for this.
There's
sport.
also like the idea that like if if like for example this weekend Logan Sargent, he was last, and so they kind of just were planning to use it almost as a test session. They ended up changing parts on the car and stuff like that, and he started from the pit lane. It kind of also decentivizes that as well, and because then like even if you're 20th, you're still gonna get a point if it's all the way down. Now my whole thing is like the tradition of it, like Tristan was saying. It's like I just don't see the point of changing it from 10 to 12 just for the fun of it.
Yeah.
When the tradition
Yeah.
has always been top 10. If you're gonna do it like you were mentioning about like doing the whole grid,
I think that would
then
be
I
better.
like that.
Yeah.
like that.
Yeah.
But if you're just gonna change it from 10 to 12, I don't really see the point.
Well,
Yeah.
tradition
But-
even tradition can be challenged because it didn't even used to be top 10. It used to be what, like top 5, I think.
6, then 8.
Six.
6,
yeah.
Yeah.
So like, I mean, it has. I mean, throughout the eras, it's been getting extended.
Yeah.
And just
Yeah.
like Jason said, like most motorsports, yeah, like it kind of contradicts exactly what I said, but like we recognize the top 10 as a good day, but like IndyCar, NASCAR, all of them, you still get rewarded for finishing in 20th.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
The thing I'll say is though, with
points.
NASCAR and IndyCar is, I mean, you have such bigger fields.
Yeah, I was gonna say it's like
Formula
double
One
the
has.
size.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I think to your point, Jason, I think it would be better if it was the whole field. I just think also, if you start giving points out like that, top 12, I feel like people are going to be more satisfied with those finishes. You know what I mean? I think that could
Yeah.
be bad for racing.
Yeah, who knows?
Actually true.
But
Yeah, that's a good point.
I also think that like the point system for me in like the normal race weekends is fine.
Yeah.
For me, what I don't really like is the way they do points in the sprint race. And the reason being is because Fernando Alonso was talking about how like he didn't even end up finishing the race and the sprint race, which we'll talk about a little later. But then he was like, well, next time maybe we don't even run the sprint. We just save the tires for the race and we'll have a much better race because we're going to have the better tire situation compared to the other teams. Because like if your team already knows that they're not planning on being in the top 8 and they're not going to get points, then might as well run the worst possible tire for a race and like whatever, if I DNF, like I'm not going to get points anyways.
Yeah.
So I feel like maybe
That's
an
a decent
implementation of in the sprint race, everyone gets points, like from top to like the whole grid. If you finish, that could be maybe something that would be more, make more sense to me. But
Yeah.
with that
could be.
said, how'd you guys feel about the new sprint race format? Do you like it? Do you hate it?
I liked it. I personally liked it.
I want to say it seems like it's a universal like.
Yeah.
I haven't really heard anybody.
I haven't heard any
criticize it.
complaints.
Sprint race enjoyer. More racing competitor.
I didn't like the initial. I mean, we talked about it on the live show. I never liked that like initial where there's only one quali
Yeah.
sprint race. I didn't like that because there's so much on the line for the sprint race.
Yeah.
Especially if you qualified out of position, then like your sprint race was your shot to like move up the grid. So I didn't love that. It was also like it didn't incentivize racing that much because if you were in a good position, there was no reason to risk it to go like if you're fourth, no reason to risk it for third. You might as well just stay where you're at.
Right.
The points difference again isn't even that big, anyways.
Yeah.
But I loved the Parc Fermé changes, where it's like you have Parc Fermé for a sprint quali and sprint race, and then you have that break. Again, 3 hours isn't a long time for teams to be able to make changes.
Yeah.
But there were some changes made that I think were instrumental to how the rest of the weekend played out.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Well, I just think it was a lot smoother, you know, going from you had sprint quali, then you had sprint, then you had actual quali, and then you had
it made more sense.
yeah. It just flows a lot better.
Yeah.
I think.
Oh,
Where
yeah.
you had like quali and then you had like a Saturday was like its own little thing with the sprint race and the race and then
That just
sprint-
kind of interrupts their
whatever.
driver's flow. I feel like when they
Yeah.
do that.
I liked
Yeah.
it. I really did. But let's move in to the Thursday. You had free practice 1 and sprint qualifying. That practice session was firstly really funny because we moved from drain covers coming up to grass catching on fire.
We got both elements coming in now.
We love it.
And that was funny. And then Lance Stroll top of the session. But then,
Yeah.
like, I don't know what happened because the rest of the weekend was, like, his worst nightmare.
Yeah.
It was just, like, way downhill
Well, I
from
guess
there.
it's because the rain went away.
The highlight of
Yeah.
the highlight of the weekend, I think, for most people, was the diss highlight for Daniel Ricciardo and the diss highlight for Lance Stroll. Because, well, especially Danny Rick, because he didn't do anything wrong.
Yeah.
There we get into the highlights of the race
Yeah.
this early. But
No.
in general, yeah, Lance Stroll.
Lance Stroll. And we'll definitely like we'll get more into it later. But if you look back to some of our older podcasts at the end of last season, I've never been like a Lance Stroll hater. I'm not his biggest fan. Everybody knows I'm a Max fan, but at the end of last year, really felt like he was stepping up and he was kind of putting in the results that he should have kind of been doing the whole race or the whole season. Sorry.
Yep.
I'm a Lance Stroll hater. I hated what he said in the interview. I thought it
Yeah.
was his worst interview, and if I was his PR team, I would have been like slapping him 10 ways.
Yeah.
Like, how do you say that? You cannot say that, especially when Daniel Ricciardo is the person you're up against. Like, even if it was Daniel's fault, I feel like there's so many Daniel Ricciardo fans and would have been like,
Oh yeah.
Slant.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah.
so like you have to know your audience. So, but anyways,
That is very true.
we'll get into that a little later. Grass caught on fire again in sprint quali.
It did.
Yeah, it was
Yep.
twice.
Yep.
And the Leclerc team radio was so funny. It was like he's just driving past and he goes, "Oh, it's on fire again."
Guys, get the fire extinguishers.
That new hybrid grass, the
Yeah.
flammable kind.
Yeah.
But yeah, but luckily some rain in SQ2 and SQ3, which kind of, I think, put an end to that for the rest of the weekend.
Yeah.
The one lap was so intriguing. I love it when they come on the radio and they're like, this is the lap. If you don't get it this lap, you're done because the rain is coming.
Yep.
It's so much pressure on the drivers.
That is very true.
The
So
best moment of that was the 2018 Brazilian Grand Prix. It was about to start raining, and Charles Leclerc, engineer, was like, "Oh, come in for inters or come into pits. It's gonna start raining." He's like, "No, I need this last lap. This is
Yeah.
it." And
Put me in, coach.
Got it into like Q3. I think he did like P8 in the Sauber back then in 2018. Insane lap like that.
Well,
so.
Kevin Magnussen, Brazil 2020. I want to say that was 2022, 23, 22? Question mark. Is that 2022? It
Not a
was.
numbers guy.
I was told there would be no math.
When he took the pole in Brazil, that was like he was the fastest one. He's the first one out.
Yeah, that was 22.
Right.
So I mean, it's so intriguing, and it caught George Russell out. George Russell was really out of position with P11, but it did help home hero Zhou Guanyu because he was able to get into SQ3. Unfortunately, his that was like the best part of his weekend. But
He didn't have a bad weekend. It
No,
just
he
wasn't
did
a
not.
good one at all.
he didn't.
He was, I mean, it was just exciting in general to see, he's the first Chinese driver
Ever.
right? So the first Chinese driver and the first Grand Prix for him on home turf.
Yeah.
The fun story too is that, and that I don't know if a lot of people realize is that 2004 was the first ever Chinese Grand Prix, and he was there. That was 20 years ago. It was
I didn't know
2
that.
decades ago.
Huh.
He was there in the grandstands. There's like photos of him that I think Sauber posted early in the weekend.
Very cool.
And then when he, now 20 years later, he's back. He's the first ever driver. He's driving on his home turf. And we'll get into it like later, but after the race, they put like where they put like the top three. They also put like a little thing out for him. And he stopped there. He got out of the car. He was crying.
Yeah.
Which
moment for
gave
him.
like it was 5 a.m. I was exhausted, but I was crying and I had chills. Like I was like, you could hear it also like throughout every practice session. Or every session, not just practice and all the other sessions, the sprint quality, the sprint. Anytime he'd come into the pits, he'd get overtaken or he overtook someone. Like they were screaming so loud for him, and it was just nice to see.
It was really cool.
Really cool moment.
Really nice to see. I also love how respectful the fans are because nobody was booed. There's a lot of tracks where they'll boo like if you go to the Netherlands, like if you go to Zandvoort, they're inevitably gonna boo Lewis. And if you go to Mexico, they're gonna boo Max. They always do, or they're gonna boo Charles when he took out Checo, which that was Checo's fault, but took out Checo. But they were just so respectful, and I love the fans. But also highlight the weekend, Lando Norris taking sprint pole.
Heck yeah, baby.
Big highlight.
That was
incredible.
so confusing for a lot of fans
so
too. Like my
cool.
mom was texting me being like, "What the hell is happening?" You guys see the little plus? Or was that
Oh
just
my.
me?
Yep, I saw
A
that.
little up from them. We love Max. Anyways, the lap time deleted and then reinstated.
Yeah. Well, the way I understand it is that, the FIA at first, I believe, thought that he gained an advantage going off track, saying that lap time. But then they looked back at it after, I guess, giving Lewis the pole, and they're like, oh, actually, you lost time, so we're going to give you back that time.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he's like, he lost 3/10, but also
Yeah.
I think Jason, he explained it really well when we were talking about it earlier, is it wasn't in the race director's notes, or it was in the race director's notes that wouldn't be penalized because there's gravel there. There's nothing, if you go off, you're not gaining any advantage. And
Right.
you do see it a lot of other tracks when you have track limits violation on the last turn, your next lap is also deleted.
Yeah.
And a lot of times it's a push situation where it doesn't really matter.
Yep.
Because you're just you're getting your cool lap deleted, whatever, it's not going to count for anything.
Yep.
But when you're doing a double push like he did, then it does matter in other tracks. But for this one, it didn't.
Yeah. Well, the thing I think is pretty interesting as well is I think there was asphalt there before. I think this Stones was a new development.
Yeah.
Yeah, the gravel is relatively new. They used to have asphalt there.
Yeah.
But you're right. In certain tracks, running wide before starting your next lap gives you a better run off the final corner.
Yeah.
And you start your next lap at a higher speed. And for tracks like that, like Bahrain, you run wide in the last corner. There's a little bit of tarmac there before you hit the gravel.
Yeah.
Turn 15. And they specifically say in the notes that oh, if you run there, then your following lap would be deleted. In China, there was nothing about that on track limits.
Yeah.
I checked the notes of both races. So, yeah, that's why, it should have never been deleted in the first place.
It was a mistake. And then they were trying to think the way I saw the tweet going was they were trying to find the button, like the erase button, to erase their
Big
mistake.
red button.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a big
Someone got the white out.
exactly. But
Yeah.
his lap was reinstated, and so it ended up being his pole.
Yeah.
How many times is Lando Norris gonna take pole?
Oh,
be on the
we don't have to
podium
talk about it,
before
okay?
he finally takes his
We don't
race
gotta
to
talk
win?
about
The
it.
second the Red Bull stops being fast, that's when he will be
Exactly.
on.
No,
Lando
then
Norris
it's
did not
Ferrari's
win the
turn.
sprint because of himself. Maybe you could say inevitably Max would have gotten him towards the end of the race, but Max was held off for like half the race with Mercedes and an Aston in front of him, which were a lot, like this weekend, they were significantly worse than the McLaren. So
Yeah.
if he hadn't, I mean, I don't want to call it a mistake because I don't think it was one. I think it was like a thing where it was like, I have to shoot my shot, because if he didn't do that, he would have kicked himself
Yeah.
for not doing it. And like,
Yeah.
this is kind of getting into the sprint race, but like Lewis kind of forced him off track.
He did.
And
He just cracked.
Lando could have pulled out, and he would have just slid in right behind Lewis, but he didn't, and he went way out wide, and then he lost like to 6th or 7th place.
Yeah.
So
Well, you could just see. I mean, he just went wide, and then he just lost it, and that was that.
Yep.
yeah,
That's the way I analyze it, at least.
Yeah.
but
I don't know. I'm a firm believer in, even again, like you said, he was he had it under control for quite a while. It's the inevitable, you
It
know.
is the inevitable.
I mean, I don't know. It's the second
Max
that Red
was
Bull gets a
ominous.
little slower.
Don't
then
even
maybe.
say Red Bull, because it was Max this
I
weekend.
know,
Max.
yeah.
It's
How dare
always
I give
Max.
Sergio
It's
Perez any
always
credit.
Max.
Max was
Norris beat him.
6/10 of a second
True.
faster per lap during the race for majority of the race than Sergio Perez. That's insane. Like, there was a point where he pulled out like a 15, 20-second gap on his teammate. Like, that's ridiculous.
That is
I'm
ridiculous.
sorry.
Yeah.
Say what you want. Like, he's been finishing P2 or P3. He's been doing a pretty good job. Like, P2 20 seconds behind is only going to be good enough for so long before you get
Yeah.
a situation like Lando Norris this weekend where
Yep.
it's like, now I'm fast enough and I have the car underneath me to be able to put the fight to you, and I'm better than you, even though my car, statistically speaking, is worse than yours.
Yep.
So
Just a case of fast driver, slow car, and slow car, fast driver situation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
well, slow car did Max Verstappen have in the first couple laps of that race? I was very
Well,
worried.
he had a few beep bops go wrong, all right?
His
Few people.
he had some
Yeah.
he had some battery issues, but as soon as that was fixed, the car went vroom
Yeah.
vroom, and it was just bye bye.
Car went
He
for-
hit-
what are these terms
he-
we're using?
He hit VTEC.
Oh yeah, when the car kind of went a skiddly bop and it did a little tweety doo, we really gave it a honky donk.
But yeah, he blew past the Aston
Oh,
of Fernando
man.
Alonso and
Well,
the Mercedes of Lewis Hamilton. And just,
The thing that I thought was funny too, I don't know if y'all saw this, and I don't know how accurate it is, but I saw that Max, they're actually like experimenting with like battery modes towards the end of the race there.
Oh yeah, the sprint
yeah.
race,
Yeah.
absolutely. He
Yeah.
pulled out 13 seconds to Lewis Hamilton while
It's
like messing with his car
Exactly.
the whole time. He was
It's
like,
like,
"Let's
ooh,
test
what does this one
What does
do?"
this one
Oh,
do?"
pretty
Boom.
button.
But that's literally kind of how it was.
Like-
Like I was listening to his team radio. It was like literally they were like him and GP talking the whole time, like doing different things. Because like essentially once he got in the lead, it was just kind of like managing the pace, but also like using it as a test. Whereas like let's check what we can do for an actual race distance to see where the best
Yeah.
pace is gonna lie.
Yeah.
Given that you didn't have the practice sessions to test this kind of
Yeah.
stuff out, so
Yeah,
they were
it's
using
true.
the race to do
Which
it.
is, I mean, yeah, fundamentally, I imagine a lot of the back of the pack teams and especially Max at the front were using the sprint for that exact reason.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
You got to
I
get the
mean,
best learning possible. But one person or people, one team that did not get to
One
do
people.
that. One team that did not get to do that was Ferrari, because their two drivers decided to have a little battle
They did a
the
little
last couple
loop-de-loop.
laps.
Yeah.
What I found really funny, and I bet the PR team of Ferrari did not find funny, was after the race, Charles being like very adamant that like Carlos crossed a line, but we're gonna talk about it and we'll be fine.
Yeah.
And
It's all good.
and Carlos being like, that was just racing, like nothing happened. Then after the fact, they talked to Charles and like, yeah, we talked about it. We're all good. And Carlos was like, yeah, it's been so busy we didn't even get to talk. And I was like,
Oh
how,
no.
like, guys,
Oh,
you have to
no.
communicate with
Your-
each other and
your
say the
PR
same
team.
thing.
That's I was gonna say the PR.
Like
Yeah,
PR
PR
team
just
gotta get
cringed.
with it.
Yeah.
They were like, I bet they were sitting there like, what did you just say? Like, you can't like, and in this case, like Charles had the right statement.
Yeah.
Like Carlos, even if they didn't talk, they should have gone with like, we talked, we're all good.
This
But
is
I just-
this is reminding me. I don't know if y'all got how familiar you guys are with it, but like in F1 racing games, they have like the opportunity to like choose the choices to like what you're gonna say to the media. This is like someone going in and pressing the wrong one.
Wait, that's
Yeah.
a thing?
Oh,
In the-
yeah.
in
I
the
didn't know
F1
that.
games?
Oh, yeah.
I did not know that.
Yeah.
no.
Yep. That's one of the parts of the game. Like after races and stuff like that, they give you like a wheel choice of like what you can say to the media.
I remember playing NASCAR 2005, and there was a thing in the game where if you had like wrecked somebody in the race, there was a chance that after the game, like after the race ended, you could get into like a fight, like in the garage. Like that was like a part of the game fundamentally.
That's funny.
Nico Rosberg too was so unhinged
Oh,
because
I
after
love
the end of
him.
the sprint race, he was like, I just want to be a fly on the wall during that meeting because.
Yeah.
And,
the
and
whole weekend. He
to
was
be
just
fair, Nico
on
Rosberg
fire.
has been in that situation.
Oh, yeah.
He's been in that room where it's him, Lewis, Toto.
He
and
had a
it's
whole
like,
year of that
Yeah,
situation.
I mean,
a couple of years.
after-
Couple of years, yeah, technically.
So especially like I like back to like Barcelona 2016 where like when Max won, like after that crash, they were in there for hours. And I remember this. I was listening to the Will Buxton podcast or on Will Buxton podcast on was that the Red Flags podcast or whatever.
Yeah.
And he was like, I'm still waiting for Lewis to retire and tell us what happened because he promised me that he would tell me in an interview what happened during that conversation. So apparently him and Nico are gonna
Oh boy.
Great.
spill the tea.
Sounds
as
like a
soon as-
60
as
Minutes
soon as he's,
episode.
I know, right?
Might as well be.
Yeah.
That whole season. Was,
I will say also, I know I said, I think in the group chat, Marino, when I was like, yeah, Nico was actually holding like Max accountable, and it was a beautiful thing.
Yeah. Well,
he
Nico,
was awesome.
Nico Rosberg is like he has so many. It's like different personalities.
Yeah.
Because it's like he'll sit there and be like the biggest Lewis hater for
Yeah.
like 5 minutes.
Yeah.
But then he will like credit where credit's due. He gives all the drivers credit when
Yeah.
it's like that was a beautiful overtake.
Yeah.
Even if it's Lewis, if it's Max,
Yeah.
anyone, he'll be like that was stellar. He was literally like he was on the Lando Norris horse this weekend. He was like that man is flying.
Yeah.
He was loving it.
Well, I absolutely loved when he kind of went. I mean, of course he's gonna say that when like Lewis let Max through in that sprint race.
Yeah.
He's like, oh, he definitely could have pushed
He
harder
could have
and,
pushed harder.
and properly closed the door. I'm like, yes, tell him. Come on,
Yeah.
let's go.
I mean, I think the biggest thing for like everyone, and this is where I do agree with what a lot of people say on like the Max always leading is kind of boring, and him everybody knowing they have no shot because it's like legitimately he doesn't have those hard fights because everyone is in that mentality where it's like this isn't my fight. I don't want to lose
Exactly.
tires. I don't want to lose
Exactly.
my tires with him. Like I'm sure Lewis, yeah, he could have closed the door, but he knew Max was gonna be get the best of him anyways.
Yeah.
And he had to worry about Checo coming up behind him. So it's just like I don't
Yep.
know. I think
Yep.
that's where
That's also what happened to Fernando
Yeah, I know.
Alonso.
well, also this week's this sprint format is not like if you want to stop Max Verstappen from winning, you don't want this kind of sprint format because this gives him the chance to not only score an extra 8 points, but it also gives him the chance to refine his car between the first quali and race and the second quali and race.
Yeah.
Which like for everybody else brought the grid so close. Like everybody was on their toes.
Yeah.
But yeah, and you mentioned Fernando Alonso, that
Yeah.
puncture.
That hurt.
That hurt.
hurt.
At the end of the sprint race. He
Yeah.
picked up nothing. It was just unfortunate.
Very
It's
unfortunate. Yeah. Nothing you can really do there, but
Yeah, let's get into the main quali of the weekend. Poor Logan. Logan just lost it again.
I feel like it's a weekly occurrence at this point.
What
Well,
is
it's like
Logan
I don't
weekly
think that's
driving
a
occurrence.
about?
surprise. The big surprise is Lewis, but we could rag on Logan, sure.
Well, yeah, obviously.
Okay.
But what I was just like, it's not like the weekly occurrence is not specifically Logan Sargent. It's like which Williams is gonna lose it this weekend.
Yep. On this episode.
He was just, it was just unfortunate. He just lost it. He took
Yep.
a braking. What is it? What are they called? Where it says like 100, 150.
Oh, like the brake markers?
The braking
Yes,
zone?
there we
Like,
go.
kinda?
The braking zone markers or
Braking
whatever. Yeah,
boards.
he
Yeah.
took one of those with him, which was funny.
Yeah, he had some nice free advertising.
And yeah, like you said, Lewis Hamilton.
Yeah.
I was so happy. I was texting my girl. I was
my
like,
gosh.
in all caps, Lewis Hamilton, P18. What is going on? Like,
the best day of my life.
exactly.
I didn't get to hear any media after the fact. Did he talk? He obviously talked to media, right?
So he told media that he changed the setup between the sprint race and qualifying, and he was like, "Well, it can't get any worse."
And
But
then
it did.
Oh my God.
So
I was
yeah,
just so
about
confused. I was
that.
like,
It can't get
how
any
does
worse.
How do you say it can't get any worse when you're in P2? Like he finished second in the sprint race, and then you go and change your setup. Can I like?
That's
I'm
like
sorry, are you Delulu?
that's like what that joke of like the worst you could say is no. Right? Like, it's like, oh, it can get much worse.
I don't
bud.
get it. I just
God.
genuinely don't get. Mercedes has this like streak of like, we're good in practice, we're good in practice, we're good in practice. Let's change our setup after FP3 going into qualifying. Boom.
You see,
Shoot.
this is what I want to mention about the Parc Fermés. Like, you give more teams more time, and theoretically, they close up and more people figure out a great setup.
Yeah.
But the other argument is you give more teams more time, and the best teams run away with a great setup.
That's
and
what
a
I was saying.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, that could
Don't.
that
That's
could
what I was
be
saying
so.
about Max is
Yeah.
like with this Parc Fermé opening, you also give the teams with the most personnel back at base that they have more people to go over all the data because like that's what the big talking point also from the drivers this week. It was like, yeah, we have a second Parc Fermé. We have 3 hours to make changes to the car. It's not a lot of time, and you have I think Crofty was like they have terabytes and terabytes and terabytes of data. Like there's so much data to pour through.
Yeah.
To ultimately then also analyze it and figure out what the best way forward is. I'm sure there were teams that were just like, we're good with what we got. I'm good. We're
Yeah.
like close to the
for sure.
points.
Well,
Let's just leave it.
The only thing I could see that maybe Mercedes was doing, I feel like this is kind of a throw, is maybe they were like, in practice they did well, and they were like, oh, other people are going to see this and, start, I don't know, making it so that their cars are more similar to that.
Yeah.
And then they're probably like, oh, we got to change it before they catch up, but
Yeah.
I don't know.
I get that. I have a question. Important question.
Shoot.
Did
Yes.
Carlos Sainz just get lucky in Q2 to hit the barrier at the perfect angle? Or did he course correct and get himself to that perfect angle? Do you think he just got lucky or is that skill right
I gotta
there?
see the replay now.
I mean, I don't know that you did that on purpose.
Watching it from overhead, I say he got lucky. But then watching it
Yeah.
from in the cockpit, it looks like he's correcting the steering wheel to go in at the perfect angle. And that's what he said on the radio. He was like, I tried my best to go in like completely sideways to not have
Yeah.
any rear damage.
Square it up, yeah.
Well, I'm sure
Oh.
it's a little bit of both, honestly.
Next level thinking, yeah.
Yeah.
He's
You
playing
need the
4D
skill
chess.
and awareness to like try, and you need the luck
Yeah.
for it to work.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I give
Yeah.
him credit for that.
Well, you know
one.
what, though? I'm just glad he didn't break his wrists. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, true.
Yeah. I mean, because you're always taught as race car drivers when you're in that situation to take
Let
your
go.
arm.
Let go of the
Yeah.
steering wheel.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But-
not full of Daniel Ricciardo right there. Just couldn't do it. Well, speaking of Daniel Ricciardo, he was P12, which was an improvement. A big improvement. Poor him. We'll talk about the race, but he qualified 7 positions ahead of his teammate.
And dropped
This was a
rapidly.
comeback. Well, barring the DNFs, this was about to be a comeback weekend.
For
Like he
Yeah.
was neck and neck or ahead of Tsunoda almost the whole weekend.
Yeah, the whole
Yeah.
weekend long.
So
And
like,
then
great job for
he-
him. He's proven
And he
himself.
sank
Absolutely.
like a
Like he-
freaking rock.
yep.
No,
Well, I was gonna say he got strolled.
yeah, I got strolled.
I love that.
It's strolling time.
I love that. So, well, he coincidentally, Lance Stroll was P11 and Daniel Ricciardo was P12.
Jason's shaking his
for
head.
the quality. So.
This guy's the world's biggest Lance Stroll fan. It's ridiculous.
Wait, you're a Lance Stroll fan?
Well, you see,
I didn't know those existed.
I saw him since the start of
Wow.
his career,
I didn't
and
know
I've
those
been defending
existed.
him. And it's kind of tough today, in this year, in the past 2 years, to defend him. I'm looking forward for his revival. He's a multi-time podium finisher. He's got a pole position. But it's become really hard to root for him. So I don't know how much longer I could put myself through this. It might be.
You don't
over
have
for
to do
him.
this anymore, Jason. You don't have to do this.
I know. Mr. Lancelot, like you gotta pick it up.
Sir Lancelot.
You know what? I've got an idea, right? I don't know if we've officially talked about it on the podcast, but you know how we've talked about our punishments for F1 Fantasy?
Oh, boy.
I think it's not much of a punishment, but I think we should get Jason like a "It's Strolling Time" shirt. No, he'd like that. See, no, we
I
can't do
would
that.
wear it.
Yeah, he
I
would
would
wear
wear
it.
He'd wear it. Yeah.
Got to do something.
Yeah, we got to
I don't
figure
know.
out our fantasy situation. Our F1 fantasy is
I-
going great. I'm
Is
He's
it
the
winning.
good?
winner of the Chinese Grand Prix.
Tristan's on a rebate. We're on a rebate tour.
I'm
There's a
surprised
rebuild.
we didn't tell the pod
Rebuilds.
about this. We gotta
I know.
open up the league
I
to the
gotta-
Yeah.
players.
I gotta put it up on the screen.
I'm in my rebuild arc.
Here's a promise. I will put it up when I'm editing it through.
Mm-hmm.
Cue screen.
Bam.
I need
That's
to
great.
Great
to
transition.
see that
That
I'm
is
gonna
our
win,
F1.
so.
That is our F1 fantasy leaderboard at the moment,
Yep.
with me winning so far.
Sadly, but not for long.
Sadly,
But not for long. What would happen if I put together exactly the same team as you moving forward? So I'm 50 points ahead of you, right?
Well, no,
Or
it doesn't
something like
tell
that?
you though
Yeah, it doesn't
until
tell you
race
until they're
day,
locked
like
in.
until you're locked in.
Right, but
Yeah.
if neither of us change our teams for like the rest of the year, we would have exactly the same team, we get exactly the same points, and I would just win by 50 points because that's what I'm winning.
Yeah,
by right
but
now.
I'm like big brained where I will change my team.
Yeah, Jason's
Oh.
strictly better.
Oh.
Just-
Oh wow. Okay, I see the sexism here. Okay.
that is
Whoa!
you, bro.
Oh.
I did not know.
Let's.
Where did you get that from?
Anyways.
Back
let's
on
talk-
track.
Let's talk about how many drivers were on provisional front row.
Oh, baby,
In
tell me about it.
Q3.
Oh, it's a beautiful thing.
Every single driver would cross the line and goes, "Oh, he's quicker. Oh, he's quicker. Oh, he's quicker. Oh, actually,
and then
it's
Max
just
Verstappen's
Checo."
just like, oh, see you guys.
Yeah,
See ya.
bye-bye.
See ya.
Everybody would just come in and go, just
Yep.
that little, like, couple times. I think it was
Yep.
like, we have it, P2 through P7 was 0.3 of a second.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, the only one that I saw that wasn't in P2 like at one point was Bottas.
Yeah,
of
both
course.
of them. I think Nico Hulkenberg wasn't either.
He wasn't?
Was he in? Yeah, Nico Hulkenberg and those two just like
Oh.
continuously stayed towards the bottom of the pack.
Yeah.
Which fair. You have
It's a Haas.
two Red Bulls, an Aston, two McLarens, two Ferraris, a Mercedes, and then
Yeah.
you have a Haas and a Stake. So it's like
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
I'm curious.
reasonable,
I
but-
wonder how close they were in times. I don't-
Haas and a ribeye. Yeah.
Oh
Haas
my
and a ribeye.
gosh.
God,
Nico
it's-
Hulkenberg and Valtteri Bottas. How
can't-
close those two were?
Yeah,
Probably-
I mean, again, because
probably
just like
within a
you
couple
said,
times.
they are
I think, like, 2 or
comparable
3
amongst the
times.
entire grid in the top 10 for Q3.
I
But
wanna
like
say it
everyone
was,
else is, you know.
I want to say that Nico was like 9/10 off Max,
Right.
and Bottas was about a second off
Okay.
Max. So
Yeah,
they were about a tenth of
checks
a
out.
second apart, something
Still,
like that.
Nico in the top 10 and going into Q3.
It's
Yeah.
incredible.
Starting to get to be
that
like a
man,
weekly thing.
Yeah, well, Will Buxton was interviewing him on the grid before the race. He was like, "I think I'm gonna have to call you like George's old nickname, Mr. Saturday." Like, it's just impressive. He's
Yeah.
there every time, and I think it's a huge factor in them being able to score as many points as they have.
Oh, absolutely.
We kind of moving into the race now. He was P10. Like, he got a point this weekend.
Yep.
So, I mean, and it's been kind of continuous. Like, almost every race, he's gotten a point or two.
Yeah.
They're right behind.
Yeah,
trying to
Haas
think-
are in 7th right now. I mean,
Yeah.
they're really doing great. Last time they finished that high, I mean, other than 2018 with 5th, I think in 2017 they're 7th or
Right.
8th.
Something like that.
Yeah. So it's really great to see that they have some sort of pace. Like, start of the year, the team principal, he was still saying, "Oh yeah, we're probably gonna be the slowest team,"
Yeah.
and then they're not. They're actually doing really
just
well.
spoke
They got
into
quality
existence, like,
pace.
yes.
They've got some race pace. The tire deg is reasonable. They're not just going dropping like a stone like they used to. It's been really awesome to
It's
see.
crazy to
how
think
Hulk
that they like,
and Nico are just
yeah.
Yeah.
They could
I mean,
realistically even take 6th
Kevin.
in the constructors. I mean, they're literally
That
only
would
2
be
points away
huge.
from what's it called Racing Bulls,
Yeah, they're not
Yeah.
gonna catch Aston. Aston
No,
are
they're
too
not
No,
gonna catch
no,
Aston.
no,
But
no.
I think 6th is the target for them for sure.
Oh,
I agree.
yeah.
6th or
Um,
7th, I think would be
Huge
perfect for them.
step from
They-
last
another
year.
thing
Incredible work.
That is incredible, and it's not just the points. Is their development. They were planning to have an upgrade on Nico Hulkenberg's car. They were able to bring upgrades to both cars this weekend.
Yeah.
Granted, Kevin Magnussen.
They were
made a
planning or
mockery
they
of
did?
it. They did.
They did,
They
okay.
were planning to only have it on one car, and they were
Mhm.
able to have it on both. So, granted, Kevin Magnussen kind of messed
Yeah.
it up, but they did have an upgrade on both cars this weekend. So,
Yeah. I was gonna say, I mean, if Magnussen was able to actually, shape it up, like, I mean, he's been had no okay season, but if he was
hasn't
able
had
to
a
shape it
great
up,
season compared to his teammate.
yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, it could have been a double points day for them.
Yeah.
Hulkenberg
Absolutely.
has
Yeah.
really surprised me since his return. Like, you go back to 2019, 2020. When was his last year? Like 2020, right?
I want to say it was like 20
Against Ricardo.
Mhm.
That was
Yeah,
it.
something like that.
And he was just like slower than Ricardo. Kevin Magnussen, anybody would have taken Magnussen over Hulkenberg. But Hulkenberg right now, he's looking like
Absolutely.
the faster
Well,
driver.
he
He's
had-
qualifying better. He's racing better.
I gave him
He's
great
got more
luck.
points.
Yeah.
I gave him great
Oh,
luck
yeah.
He had
when I
a,
saw him in the airport in Jeddah, and now he's just flying.
There you go.
You know,
Right.
He had a great battle between, I can't remember if it was Charles Leclerc or Carlos Sainz.
Charlie Leclerc.
Charlie Leclerc.
Chuckles, Chuck.
Oh yes, he did. Who
Yeah.
did he have I think it was Carlos Sainz.
Okay.
Because I don't think
there,
Charles
there,
was
there
ever
was a
at
cool
Iraq.
little battle there. I mean, it was so weird. I'll tell you what, to see like a Haas fighting with a Ferrari.
Yeah.
But I mean, it was dope. I mean, he was hanging in there a little bit, but
Yeah.
eventually, power overcame him. But
Yep.
Yeah, absolutely.
cool stuff.
I loved the race start. Fernando getting the best of Checo
Yeah,
on the start.
that was pretty cool.
I thought he
And
was
so-
gonna get the
okay,
best of
so
Verstappen
I thought so too. He
Mind
was looking
you,
good there.
He was. Mind you, it was 3 a.m., right, race time, and my roommate was asleep. So this was my silent reaction to the start.
You
Hold on, I'm
recorded?
gonna play. I did.
Influencer.
Because I think it's really funny. Look at my face.
And here we have a rare occurrence of a Red Bull fan seemingly very nervous.
I was so nervous.
I missed the Red Bull Honda slow starts.
This was Checo getting the best of Paris,
She
and
said,
then that's me like, oh my god, is he gonna get Max too? And then it's like, yay, he didn't.
You have to know in the back of your mind
Yeah,
that like
right,
it's gonna be like a
like-
corner.
It's one, and it's like, okay,
Here's
the
the
rocket
thing.
ship's finally taken off.
Fernando and Max are both very like aggressive. Like,
Oh yeah.
So you think they're gonna wreck each other?
yeah,
I
that's
would,
how
yeah.
I was feeling. But I
Oh,
just
that's
I
fair.
thought that was
Okay,
funny. I
that's
had to
fair.
show that on the pod.
That's great.
It was great. Fernando went so aggressive, but it ended up
Yeah,
it
it
was a
hurt him.
mistake.
It hurt him.
hurt him at the end because
he
he
used
didn't
up his
have
tire
tires.
pretty good.
Yeah.
But he
Yeah.
also didn't have any tire options. Like he ended up on softs.
Yeah.
With the safety car with Bottas losing his engine.
Yep.
Also, huge mistake in my opinion from the FIA on that one because they went double yellows for like a lap or a lap and a half. Then they went VSC and then they went full safety car.
Yeah, I don't know what the deal was with that. I mean,
It's
I
like,
guess.
just pick one,
Yeah.
man.
Well, I guess they were trying to see if they could get Bottas's car.
Yeah,
The
but it's just
original-
stuck in gear, so they can't
Yeah.
like roll it away. They had
Yeah.
to get
Did you see the
tow truck or
clips?
something.
I feel like I saw this somewhere. Was the clips of like the stake mechanics watching them try and get the car, and they're like, "Oh my god, please stop! Please stop! You're gonna mess up the car!" And they're like trying to push it, and they're like, "Can't! It's stuck in gear," which ultimately is why it took like long. It took so long, and they had the VSC and then the full safety car because it
Did-
was stuck. But it
Did
was like
anybody see the stake fans wearing the vest that said "Tire Changer Sauber F1 Strategy"?
Oh, I think I did
Did
see
you
that.
see the
I didn't
yellow
see
vest?
that.
There's a
Not the
bunch
vest.
of you gotta
That's
search
awesome,
it up.
though.
There's a bunch of Chinese fans. Well, a ton of them were wearing these vests. There's one for Horner too. It was like Horn Dog Watcher or something. It was hilarious.
That's awesome.
God.
that's too
But
good.
no, they were wearing like because they're making fun. We're like, we could change tires better than you.
Mhm.
Steak had
Chinese
great pit stops this
fan
week. Well, great for their
steak
standards. They went from 50 seconds in Bahrain to 5.
change.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Well, it was funny. I saw like a joke. The guy was like, from the old comedy review. He was like, "Yeah, the kick pulled off in reaction to having a pit stop
Yes.
coming up."
They're
Yeah.
wearing these. And for
What does
those
it
of you
say?
that can't read it, it says Kick Sauber, Tire Changer Supervisor is what it says
Oh my
there.
God,
speaking
that
of
is
tire
amazing.
changers
Tons
and
of
pit
people wearing
stops, did you guys see the tire that hit the Alpine mechanic?
I
That
did
was
hear about
crazy.
that. Yeah.
So,
Yep.
everyone okay, but he just kind of like started pulling away. They like let him down, but the tire wasn't properly fitted, so it flew back and hit a mechanic.
Yeah.
I really liked the touch on the radio of like it was like 5 minutes later, and they finally played Pierre's radio that was like, "Is he okay?" And they're like, "Yeah, he's all good," but it was like took forever. I was
That's
like,
scary. Those tires are big. Last
Yeah,
time I
they were
remember that.
big
those are
old
heavy.
tires.
They're heavy.
Had to be, I think 2018 was Kimi Räikkönen pulled away and like ran over a mechanic's foot.
Ooh.
That was pretty bad. Time earlier than that was Lance Stroll came in hot and pushed his mechanic.
Oh my God,
to
I
front
remember
check
this.
win.
Oh,
his back.
yeah.
I remember this.
Yeah, no injury.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but yeah, luckily all okay. But
Hey, I tell
Crazy
you what,
stuff.
tire changing is a contact sport. I tell you
Hopefully
what.
not. Like
ideally not.
that's
but
like calling golf a contact sport. You don't want to be
Wow.
hit by a
Can be.
golf ball.
Can be.
Yeah, it can be, but it
Extreme
shouldn't be.
golf.
yeah, no. Pit stops ultimately define this race.
Oh,
I mean,
yeah.
Max got the 1.9 pit stop, which is the fastest
Yeah.
of the season.
Well,
so
the fact
far.
they were able to double up twice
double
and be
stacked
fine
twice.
was crazy.
Yeah.
Next
But-
level stuff.
I don't think it was because of the double stack. It was just because Perez was slow. But Leclerc and Norris pitted under VSC and were able to like I was gonna say overtake, but it's not. They were to jump Perez in the
Yep.
pits,
Yep.
which was crucial for
Yep.
Lando Norris.
Yep.
If that wasn't the case, I think for sure Perez would have finished second because Lando had really good pace during the race, but not enough, in my opinion, to overtake Checo. He could keep him behind, but I think to overtake it would have been difficult.
Yeah, for sure. For sure.
Um,
Not quite there yet.
That also led to Stroll into the back of Daniel Ricciardo. We talked about it a little earlier. What the heck was Lance Stroll doing? Because Daniel was saying it. He was like, look at his onboard. He's looking to the side. In a safety car restart, the only thing Daniel said in the safety car restart, the only thing that matters is the car in front of you.
Yep.
That's it. Because you can't overtake. So what's the point of looking like
Yeah.
across to like the next corner or the apex or whatever? It was like,
No, yeah. Prediction does you no good because,
Exactly.
like,
You have to-
it's a double-edged sword. It's you're either A, going to get into an accident like what just happened, or B, like, you could risk the chance of jumping the start or something like that, and then
Yeah.
you get a penalty.
Right.
and he ruined 3 people's races because he hit his nose goes under Danny Rick, which, you know, Danny Rick went flying, had floor damage.
Yeah.
He did stay out for a little bit, but then he ended up coming in and having to retire.
He
Lance
went to
spent
back Oscar.
Yeah,
he
I was
got
gonna say,
lucky.
oh.
Oscar
Yeah.
didn't get any more damage.
Lance spent a whole minute in the pit lane, you know, changing everything and making sure all was good, and then he went back out. So like it ruined his race.
Yeah.
And like
Yeah.
you mentioned, Oscar he picked up damage, and at the end of the day, he had a big damage from that, which caused him to finish his teammate on the podium in second. Oscar was, I
Yeah.
think, 8th.
Yep.
So
Yeah.
I was going to say, it could have been a top 5 day for him, potentially.
It was a
but-
messy
Absolutely.
thing because first Sainz checked up, I think behind Perez, was it, right? And like Sainz
Yeah.
went wide, and so locked up. Other drivers went that way too,
Yeah.
but nobody else crashed. But Stroll is the point. Like even though
Yeah.
there's that effect of like Sainz had to like slam on the brakes, and the person
everyone
behind Sainz,
slams on the brakes,
but then
they're
for
close.
Stroll to fly into him and be
Yeah.
looking into the corner already,
Yeah.
not a
That's-
great
Well,
situation.
Yeah, and I hated that he was like, he blamed, not only on the radio did he blame Daniel, but then in the interview he still blamed Daniel. And we were
He
talking about
doubled
this, like,
down. It was crazy.
know your audience, man. Like
Yeah.
this is like you're
This is
you're
Danny
fighting
frickin'
Danny
Rick you're
and
talking
Danny
about.
Rick fans. Like you're gonna get slammed in the media. I bet
Oh,
his PR
like-
team is
oh
like,
my God.
That's not
what
gonna
are
be
you
pretty.
doing?
It
man?
reminds me of like when Grosjean did I think Ericsson hit us.
That was funny.
Yeah.
That was a rough day to be a Grosjean fan
Yeah.
But-
because he was under safety car weaving to get heat in his tires,
Mhm,
and
just lost
Ericsson wasn't even in the same zip code. He
No,
was like a
literally.
sector away behind him.
Yeah.
He's like, "Did Ericsson hit us?" And the mechanic was like, we're checking on that."
Well, let me get back to you on that.
Shaking
Well,
their
what's
heads.
great today is that they're both racing each other still in IndyCar.
In
So
IndyCar,
I
yeah.
love to see the rivalry. Sadly, Ericsson is doing better in IndyCar than Grosjean
Yeah.
right now.
Yeah.
So,
Well, Grosjean's on a new team anyway.
Well, yeah.
but
Well,
Well,
speaking-
Ericsson took Grosjean's seat He took his seat. Andretti dropped Grosjean
Yep.
and hired Ericsson.
That's
So,
funny.
F1 a few years ago never would happen. Everybody rated Grosjean way
Grosjean
higher
higher.
than Ericsson.
Yeah.
Ericsson was always a backmarker, and he shows up in IndyCar and is like fast.
No,
pretty good.
absolutely. Logan Sargent, 10-second penalty for a safety car infringement. He was right there. Like, honestly, this could have got. It was 50-50. He was coming. Who was coming out? Was it Nico or K-Mag? One of the Haas's was coming out of the pit lane under the safety car, and he was just right there. He should have yielded the position, yielded and given the position to the Haas, but he didn't.
Right.
Yeah.
From the front, it looks like he did nothing wrong, but when you look at the other angles, he had the position was of the Haas car, so
Because it's
Sucks,
that first
but-
safety car line, right?
exactly, yeah. So that, and then Daniel Ricciardo 3-place grid penalty for Miami, also safety car infringement. That one I don't know why though. I don't know if anybody caught that. I don't remember
I do not
why.
know.
No.
It could have been like there's a couple different rules of safety cars. One is once you're all in a row and caught up, you can't be farther than 10 car
10
lengths.
car lengths, yeah.
Another one is usually there's like a minimum or maximum delta time. I'm pretty sure there's
yeah.
a minimum delta time for when you're going around and catching the safety car.
Yeah.
I'm not totally sure about that. It could be because of that too.
Yeah.
There's a couple different procedural things, but
Yeah.
Yeah,
no,
just
little
not a
weird.
great day for Danny Rick after
No.
all.
No, unfortunately
And
not.
he was, like I said, on for it too. He's
Yep.
always like this could have
No,
been a redeeming
it
weekend.
was a good
and it was
weekend
so
for him
disappointing
until
it had
the
to
race.
end with
Yeah.
Sir Lancelot lancing him
Yeah.
into the DNF.
Well, I'm
zone.
just curious how you look at this from like an RB standpoint. Like, how are you consoling Danny Rick on this one?
I
You know
don't
what
know
I mean?
if there's much to console. I think it's just kind of like
He needs a
Tough
sticker.
luck, you know.
I think it's kind of from RB's. If I was RB, I'd be like, "We're proud of you. I
He
think you
needs
made
a
a
sticker
great
that
step."
says "Great job."
He needs a golden
Yeah.
star.
He needs a lollipop.
Yep, he just left the
you
doctor's
get
office.
2 stickers, not just one.
He needs a smiley.
You get to
on
go to the
his
treasure
homework.
chest
Aw.
more than once. Oh
Yeah.
my god.
Oh boy.
Wow.
Max Verstappen went to the treasure chest. He got P1.
Oh, did he
And-
now?
Good transition there.
Right?
You know
What was that? Lando Norris with the P2 and the double podium for Red Bull.
Trying out that new trophy
Yep.
necklace.
The
Yeah.
He did not
Yep.
put it on.
He didn't
which
put it
is-
on,
But
which was
his
sad, but-
mechanic did. Callum
Lando
Nichols.
did.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Did he? I didn't see
He
that.
tried it on. He
Did
tried it
any
on.
of us get our prediction? None of us predicted the top 3 correctly, did we?
None of
Other
us.
than
No, all of us had a Ferrari on the podium.
All of us had
Which-
Max
I had Perez in
winning.
third, I think.
I thought someone said
I
Lando
don't-
second, but maybe I'm crazy.
I had Lando. I think I
remember.
may have had Lando on the podium. I think I may have
You
said
had Lando on the podium. I'm
Max,
just not sure if he was
Charles,
second.
or Carlos, and then
Look at
Lando.
that. Look,
something
he
like
put
that.
it on.
Yeah, that's
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
Oh.
Very nice.
yeah. But
But
yeah, it was a good day for Red Bull.
Mm-hmm.
another day in the office, Red
Yeah,
Bull.
it was a good weekend for them. They also took their 100th pole position, and Max took 5 in a row, which hasn't been done since 1999. Mika Hakkinen getting the first 5 pole positions.
And he's now officially
done
won
yet.
50% of the races since
He has-
2019.
He has. If you didn't see that on our Fact or Fiction, that was fact.
It is a fact.
Well, it was made a fact.
He made a.
Now it was made a fact, right?
Well, the thing was, if Max won this race,
Oh,
would he win 50%? And it was a fact. And
Yeah.
then he did. So
I mean, that
now
was all of
it's
3
50%.
days ago, so like my memory's already gone.
I barely remembered what happened during the sprint when I was putting together the recap. But let's
happens to the
talk
best of
real
us.
quick technical debrief. Alpine had upgrades on Esteban Ocon's car. Not that visible because again it's
I was gonna say, it's a
Alpine,
little bit
but
of
Yeah,
Alpine thing,
almost
yeah.
made the
But-
points.
they did almost make the points. They were in Q2, which was better for them than the normal Q1 elimination that has been their normal this year. Haas, like I said, brought the upgrade on both cars.
Yep.
Lewis has confirmed upgrades for Mercedes in Miami, and so has Andrea
Very
Stella.
good,
Upgrades
very
for
good.
McLaren.
That's
Interesting.
interesting.
Quick
So-
comment about Lewis and upgrades. I don't know what's gonna get this guy to stop complaining.
The man's is not
I-
happy.
He keeps doesn't. I'm sure
What's
he
he gonna do
understands
Ferrari,
this,
Jason? Just you
but
wait. He's gonna be one
he
happy boy.
keeps complaining like, "Oh, it's undrivable. This car is so slow. I
But your
can't
teammate's
believe
scoring
it.
points.
This is
Yeah.
so bad." And Imagine being an
consistently ahead of you.
engineer or a mechanic that built the car. Imagine being the
Yeah.
aerodynamicist that designed
Yeah,
it and
that's
has
true.
it here, a
That's
world
true.
champion.
I mean, obviously it sucks.
Yeah,
But you
I-
don't need to be saying that in the media, in my opinion.
I get it. Like the first few times, like the car sucks. If it's
Yeah.
been horrible all year, horrible all last year, you saying, "Yeah, this is terrible, guys," once
Yeah.
is like totally fine. But then, or
Yeah.
being specific is way better. Like saying, "I have absolutely no rear end through these corners here,"
Yeah.
rather than
Yeah.
just a blanket statement of saying it's so bad.
Yeah.
Right.
Like I don't know. When I
Yeah.
keep hearing that, it's like all drivers whine, and they don't broadcast all the whining.
No.
Yeah.
I'll only select, and Lewis is on a spotlight right now because
Yeah,
he's
of
going to
course.
Ferrari next year. He's on his way out. It's just a little
course.
bit.
It's a bit irritating.
It's
It
just a little
is.
bit annoying to hear.
It is. I also think that, like, to be completely fair this weekend, like him saying that the car was terrible, that's not fair to say, because George had a pretty good weekend. George made a mistake in Sprint Quali, which was why he was P11, but he was able to fight back through. And he admittedly said, we went a different direction in setup. We could have gone one of two ways. I chose to go one way. And then after you say, I chose to go a certain way in setup, then you blame it on the team. You still scored points. You had a decent car under
Yeah.
you. Is it Mercedes standards? No, it's not.
No.
But that car is by no means horrible.
Right. Right.
Alpine can say it's a terrible car, and neither of their drivers are saying that. They're saying, we know how it is. It's tough, but we're still in it. We're still bringing upgrades. We're trying it out. So I think the attitude is the wrong way, but
Yeah.
Yeah.
it is what
Yeah.
it is.
I want to
Yeah.
see positivity in Maranello next year.
Well, you know what's positive?
Done with this
Well, you know
negative-
what's positive?
What's
Lando
that?
Norris is driver of the day.
Heck yeah, he is.
Great job.
That's my boy.
And Fernando Alonso taking the
I was
fastest
surprised
lap.
how off the pace. Oh really? Ferrari was. I thought they would have been neck and
Yeah.
neck with
Shocker.
McLaren. They really weren't.
I can't tell if
Absolutely.
is that sarcasm.
No, I was actually
No, like legit.
so shocked.
I thought Ferrari would have been closer to McLaren.
No,
and they
I think
just
you was talking
weren't.
about me. No, I was not sarcastic. No, I legitimately was very shocked. So was Lando Norris. Lando was like, I took bets with the team how far behind the Ferraris we were going to finish, because realistically in the race they should have been faster than us, and they just weren't.
Yeah.
I don't think that's a McLaren Ferrari thing. I think
No, it's
Lando
Plan
Norris
D.
drove
Very
an
well.
amazing race,
Yeah.
and Ferrari had the worst strategy.
Well,
Well,
That's not
besides
what you wanna
Fernando
hear.
Alonso. Plan D was gonna work
The one
seamlessly
stopper.
for them if they didn't have the safety car. But with the safety car, everyone got that free pit stop, and they were
Yeah.
just on older tires. Like, there's not much they could have done, and both of their drivers were unhappy with it.
Yeah.
Did you hear Carlos Sainz's radio was like, D? Are you sure?
let's go see.
And then his race engineer was like, no, everyone's on Plan D now. And he was like, oh, okay. Because
Come on.
everyone pitted under safety car and then just didn't pit for the rest of the race.
Yep.
So
Yeah. Oh, well.
let's last thoughts before we do code of the day.
Last thoughts. Well, we have quite a substantial break until Miami,
Yeah,
right? I
after
think
the
that
semester's
is.
over.
2 weeks.
We have. Well, yeah, not
Not
quite.
this
I guess not
weekend.
quite as substantial, but
Next
like 2
weekend.
weeks. Yeah, we got a nice little bubble.
Yep.
I don't know. I'm expecting a news implosion.
I am too.
I think something's
Next
gonna
4
happen.
weeks.
I think
don't know
contracts
why.
are going to be signed.
Signed.
Contracts,
Signed,
I
sealed,
yeah.
saw
delivered.
Perez, Marco, and Toto meeting. I saw a
Ooh.
photo after the
Ooh.
podium.
Interesting.
Could you imagine switching Checo and Lewis? Oh my
Checo
god.
and
I hope
Lewis?
so, because you know what that means?
What does that
means
mean?
Science is at Red Bull.
Well,
Yes. I'm ready for
I-
that.
That is
I'm
true.
so
I'm
ready for
so
that.
ready for Sainz at Red
But,
Bull.
I mean,
I
we've-
just don't know if he's gonna take it, because
Yeah.
if I'm Carlos Sainz,
I would. Why would I
I'm-
want to go to Mercedes?
No,
No, Audi.
Unless
but I don't think
2026,
Mercedes is an option
people
for
are
him.
like, oh, we're gonna be so fast.
I don't
Yeah.
think Mercedes
He's
is an
not
option
buying
for Carlos Sainz. I think it's between Audi and Red Bull.
Yeah.
And yes, we have now heard that Red Bull, like from Helmarko, that Red Bull did offer him a contract, and so did Audi. But he's at Red. You're choosing between: are you going to be a back of the pack team for a while, maybe at least a year, if not
Or
a couple years?
they could be a Braun
Or-
GP.
Yeah,
and
maybe.
be top dogs.
Maybe.
Hey, yeah,
but
2026 is
more
gonna be
likely that
interesting.
you'd be more like in an Aston position, in my opinion,
Yeah.
where it's like your fourth or fifth.
Yeah.
Or do you go to Red Bull, but then essentially from now until 2028, your chances of winning a championship are slim to none because they're not going to take you over Max Verstappen. Max Verstappen is Red Bull.
Yep.
Period.
Unless he leaves.
Which
Maybe
is not
he's
going
just
to
like,
happen.
let's go to Le Mans, and he's gone.
Yeah,
I
it's just
think
a
Max
WEC
is gonna
driver.
leave in 2028.
He will become
I
a
think he wouldn't have
professional
signed
golfer.
that contract if he wasn't staying till then.
Well, the other thing is too. I mean, we have to think about, and
Maybe he
I
could
don't
drive
know.
from home. Like, what if he Bluetoothed it in? Like, he's got the sim rig. They could like
Yeah,
make
there you
some.
go.
Yeah.
They can make the controls
That might
automatic.
be the best thing you've ever said.
I mean, he could phone it in his job. He doesn't even have to leave his simulator seat.
Did you guys see the flight back? Kelly Piquet's comment
Oh,
was
yes.
so. She was like,
Little jealous
"At
of
Lando
Lando
Norris,
Norris
you're
there.
sitting in my seat," because they flew back to Monaco.
Sorry,
and,
I didn't see you driving the car.
Well, they were in Max's private jet
No,
going back
I
to
know.
Monaco,
I'm just.
and Kelly that was so funny. I was
Yeah.
like, I woke up to that and I was like,
Yeah.
what a comment. She loves to comment on the posts and be funny and be cute. So
Brr.
that was funny. All right, quote of the day.
Quote of the day.
I'm ready.
Do, 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 do,
Time to get
do.
locked in.
Leave me to it, man. I can see him.
Lewis Hamilton.
Whoa, who said it first?
I did because I whispered.
That's not how that works, but that's okay.
It's the ASMR.
I didn't say
anything,
That's
so-
how I did it.
It is
I
indeed
got
Lewis
it.
Hamilton, but I don't know who got it
Yes.
first.
Let's go.
I feel like I should just give it to Steven.
Oh,
Oh, there-
thank you.
Because you tried to be funny with it and do the ASMR, and I
What?
didn't. I heard
I
him
thought they would
first.
give me bonus points. Like, I put in effort. He just sits back and
I
is like,
personally didn't
Lewis
like
Hamilton. I'm like locked in
it. Wasn't a
here.
fan. Was not a fan.
Was not a fan.
Okay. Okay.
Nope.
Fine. I'll win anyways. There's enough races I could win.
Oh,
So-
Hey,
damn.
no need to be salty now.
Okay,
no
Max
need to be
Verstappen.
salty.
I know.
Whatever.
No, I'm ready. I'm the best quoter out here.
That I
so-
won't doubt. You are the
What a-
best
What a
quarter out
strong
here.
line.
Yeah. All right. Well, since we do have a break week, but because it is a sprint week, here's what I've decided to do. Give me your prediction for sprint podium next in
Ooh.
Miami, and
That's a
then next
bit
week we'll
tougher,
do
isn't
real podium.
it? Ooh.
Okay, interesting.
All right, Tristan, you're first.
Tristan's first.
So
Okay.
you're on the hot seat.
All right.
Hot Pocket was it
Hot Pocket-
787?
Yo, that
He's
is
on
my
hot seat.
Instagram. I would say don't at me, but I'm added in every
In every
post.
post.
So like I was like, whoa. Okay, so we're going with the sprint podium. It's gonna be like a abnormal one. I mean, I'm gonna stick to tradition. Max Verstappen wins, right?
Okay.
Tradition.
But with McLaren bringing the upgrades, the planned upgrades,
Yeah.
if they
McLaren
suit out,
2-3?
if they weigh the way that the things are supposed to go, I think McLaren's going to go P2, P3. I think Lando P2. We're going to have a replication of this past weekend.
I like
And
that.
then
Oscar P3.
Oster. Oster?
Oscar?
No, we have not been able to
Ostrich.
speak
Oscar
this whole
P3.
podcast. Oscar.
Oscar P3.
P3. Yeah, I'm thinking of papaya orange
I
P2
like
and 3.
that.
No.
Hello.
Steven?
Well, I definitely go. You know what? It's getting harder and harder to say Max Verstappen every time. I just
know,
don't feel like
sucks.
saying it.
It's painful.
It
So
is
who's your
painful.
2 and 3 then?
I like the Lando pick, honestly. I really do.
I do too.
Especially with the upgrades coming in. I mean, because logically speaking, you would think their car would be better, and therefore
Yeah.
he would do better.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, I'd go him P2. I don't think I'm going to go Piastri P3, though. I think P3, I want to go Fernando Alonso.
Ooh,
I
I
like
like
that one.
it.
I like that.
Jason?
Aston has surprised me this week. They've been pretty fast. I really want to put them on the podium.
Speak
but...
for a driver.
Okay.
Because the other one was incapable.
Taking a stroll.
of-
Lance Stroll redemption
doing
arc in
anything.
Miami?
Anyways, I'm gonna put Verstappen P1, Charles P2, and Perez P3.
Ooh, I like it. Okay.
Okay.
I'm going to go similar to Tristan and Steven. I'm going to go Max P1, Lando P2, and I'm going to go Carlos Sainz P3 for the sprint.
Okay.
All right.
Okay.
All right. Well, thank you guys so much for watching. If you want more from us, we have Tech Tuesday, WAG Wednesday, Throwback Thursday, Fun Fact Friday, and Man on the Street videos. Don't also forget to check out our live show that we did on 360 Sports PSU. And, of course, the podcast every Monday at 11:30 Eastern Time. Bye, guys.
Rock on. See ya.
Peace.